If what I saw is connected to the disappearance of my neighbor's son, then I may have spent years living beside a man hiding a terrible secret. Even now, I can't stop replaying everything in my head. Every conversation, every strange look, every moment that seemed insignificant at the time, but now feels loaded with meaning. 5 years ago, our quiet neighborhood was shaken by news that nobody expected. My next-door neighbor, Charles, came to my door looking like a man whose entire world had collapsed. His 14-year-old son had disappeared. No warning, no explanation. One day the boy was there, and the next he was gone. Police cars filled the street. Detectives knocked on doors asking questions. Search teams combed nearby woods and empty lots. Missing person posters appeared on telephone poles, storefront windows, and community bulletin boards. The story even made local news. My wife and I felt horrible for them. Charles and his wife Kathy had always been decent neighbors. We couldn't imagine what they were going through. Whenever possible, we offered help. Sometimes it was mowing part of their lawn. Other times it was bringing over food or simply checking in. But as months turned into years, nothing changed. No calls, no sightings, no answers. The missing posters slowly disappeared. News coverage stopped. The neighborhood moved on. At least on the surface. Charles and Kathy never did. Every summer, they still occasionally invited us over for barbecues, trying their best to maintain some sense of normal life. Yet the difference in them was impossible to miss. Kathy barely spoke anymore. The woman who once laughed easily now spent most gatherings staring into the distance, as though she were listening for a voice nobody else could hear. Charles changed too. He became awkward, nervous, restless. Even during casual conversations, his eyes seemed constantly distracted, as if some private thought was pulling him somewhere else. At the time, I assumed grief was responsible. Who wouldn't be changed by losing a child? Years passed like that. Then last week, something happened that dragged all those old memories back to the surface. I was taking out the garbage when Charles suddenly appeared beside me. He looked tired, more tired than usual. "Tim," he said, forcing a smile. "Can I borrow a shovel?" The request seemed harmless. Without hesitation, I went into my garage and brought him my best shovel. He thanked me and explained he needed to do some work in his backyard. "I'll return it tomorrow." Nothing about the conversation seemed unusual, at least not yet. A few minutes later, standing upstairs near a window overlooking his property, I happened to glance into his backyard, and what I saw immediately caught my attention. Charles was digging. Not a small gardening hole, not a trench, a massive hole, large enough that I found myself staring at it longer than I intended. The deeper he dug, the more uneasy I became, and I had no idea that this was only the beginning. For nearly half an hour, I watched Charles work. The afternoon sun beat down across the yard, and even from my window, I could tell he was struggling. Every shovel full of dirt seemed harder than the last. He was 56 years old. Digging a hole that size alone looked exhausting. At first, I thought nothing of it. People dig for all sorts of reasons. Maybe he was installing a fence post. Maybe planting something. Maybe repairing a drainage problem. Still, the size of the hole bothered me. The longer I watched, the stranger it seemed. Eventually, I decided to help. I grabbed my second shovel and walked next door. As soon as I entered his backyard, I called his name. "Charles." He looked up. The moment he saw me, something changed. His face tightened. His eyes widened. Then he dropped my shovel and hurried toward me. No, he said quickly. "It's okay, Tim. I've got it. Please, just leave." The reaction caught me completely off guard. I laughed awkwardly. "What's wrong with you? It's not a big deal." Instead of relaxing, he looked even more agitated. Then he said something I still can't explain. "I will not allow you to use that shovel in my backyard." The words sounded rehearsed, almost desperate. Before I could respond, he pointed directly toward the gate. Not politely, not casually. The gesture felt more like an order, like he wanted me gone immediately. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I remember feeling embarrassed, confused, and strangely unwelcome. So I left. Back inside my house, I went upstairs and continued watching through the window. Charles returned to digging. For another 30 minutes, he worked without stopping. Then something happened. He suddenly paused. He looked around the neighborhood, not at ground level, upward, toward nearby houses, toward windows, toward rooftops, as if he were checking whether anyone was watching him. The sight sent a chill through me. I remained frozen near the glass. Then his head turned, directly toward my window. Our eyes met. For a split second, Neither of us moved. I immediately stepped away, pretending I had simply wandered past the room. My heart was beating faster than it should have been. By then I was certain of one thing. Charles didn't want witnesses. The question was why. As evening approached, I checked the backyard repeatedly. Nothing. The hole remained there, untouched. Hours passed. Darkness settled across the neighborhood. Streetlights flickered on. Most houses went quiet. Yet something told me Charles wasn't finished. If he knew I had been watching, he would wait until everyone was asleep. That thought lingered in my mind as midnight approached. And eventually, I went to bed. But deep down, I had a feeling the night wasn't over. I was right. At exactly 1:30 in the morning, I woke to a sound that instantly pulled me from sleep. Metal striking dirt. Slow, rhythmic, unmistakable. A shovel. For a moment, I lay motionless in bed listening. Scrape. Thud. Scrape. Thud. The noise drifted through the darkness outside. Beside me, my wife slept peacefully. I carefully slipped from bed and moved toward the window. The backyard was almost completely black. Moonlight barely illuminated the fences. I couldn't see much, but I could still hear digging. The sound seemed louder now. Closer. Persistent. Curiosity won. Quietly, I made my way downstairs, opened the back door, and stepped outside. The night air felt cool and damp. Everything around me was silent except for that steady digging. I crossed my yard and carefully looked over the fence. There he was, Charles, still digging. His movements were slower now, almost mechanical. The moonlight reflected off the shovel blade as he worked. I crouched low and watched. Then, unexpectedly, he stopped. He looked toward his house and walked inside through the back door. The opportunity appeared suddenly, and before I could fully think it through, I acted. I slipped over into his backyard. My pulse hammered in my ears. Every step felt dangerously loud. The freshly disturbed dirt led directly to the hole. When I reached the edge, I looked down. At first I saw only darkness. Then my eyes adjusted. Something was sticking out from the soil at the bottom. A small piece of black plastic. A garbage bag. I stared at it. My mind immediately began creating possibilities. None of them were good. I looked toward the back door, then back at the hole, then toward the door again. Part of me wanted answers. Another part wanted to run. Several times I considered climbing down to inspect the bag. Several times I stopped myself. The silence around me felt oppressive, like the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. Finally, instinct took over. I turned and hurried back toward my own property. The moment I crossed the fence, I heard movement. Seconds later, Charles emerged from his house again. If I had waited any longer, he would have caught me standing beside that hole. But what happened next was even stranger. He didn't resume digging. Instead, he disappeared around the side of his house. Out of sight. Gone. I waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. No digging. No movement. No sounds. Just darkness. And the image of that black garbage bag burned into my thoughts. I returned inside. But sleep was impossible. Because for the first time, a terrifying possibility entered my mind. What if the answer to his son's disappearance had been buried in that backyard all along? The rest of the night felt endless. I lay awake staring at the ceiling while questions circled through my head. What had I actually seen? What was inside that bag? Why had Charles reacted so strongly when I offered to help? And why dig in the middle of the night unless there was something he desperately wanted hidden? Every explanation seemed worse than the last. By sunrise, exhaustion had replaced sleep. The first thing I did was walk to the upstairs window overlooking Charles's property. The hole was gone, completely gone. The ground had been filled and smoothed over as though nothing had ever happened. No loose dirt, no sign of digging, no evidence whatsoever. But something else immediately caught my attention. Charles's SUV was parked on the street. Normally it sat in his driveway. That morning it didn't. I stood there staring at it. A cold feeling settled into my stomach. I had no idea what happened after I went back to bed. No idea what Charles did during those missing hours. Yet my imagination filled the gaps. Suppose something had been buried there. Suppose he had dug it up. Suppose he loaded it into the SUV and drove somewhere else before dawn. I knew I was speculating. I had no proof. Only a garbage bag and a series of increasingly suspicious actions. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had witnessed part of something important. Something dark. As the day went on, I considered calling the police. Then I imagined explaining everything. A missing child from 5 years ago. A hole. A garbage bag. A nervous neighbor. None of it sounded like evidence. It sounded like paranoia. So I stayed quiet. I told nobody. Not my wife. Not friends. Not anyone. The secret sat inside my head, growing heavier with each passing day. Meanwhile, Charles acted as though nothing had happened, at least from a distance. He never returned my shovel. Not once did he mention it. Not once did he apologize. And strangely, he seemed determined to avoid me. If I stepped outside, he went inside. If I was in my driveway, he found a reason not to come out. It felt intentional, as though he knew exactly what I had seen, or maybe what I almost saw. That possibility frightened me more than I wanted to admit. Because if Charles really was hiding something, then my curiosity had placed me directly in the middle of it. And lately, I've started wondering whether he sees me as a witness or a problem. A thought that became much harder to ignore after what happened yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, everything changed again. It happened completely by accident. I was walking through my house when I glanced out a front window toward Charles's home. The moment I looked across the street, I froze. Charles was standing at one of his windows, looking directly into mine. Not outside, not toward the street, not scanning the neighborhood. At me. For a brief second, we simply stared at each other. The distance between our houses suddenly felt much smaller than it ever had before. There was something unsettling about the way he stood there, completely still, watching, as if he had been doing it for longer than I realized. The instant he noticed that I had seen him, his reaction was immediate. He shut the blinds. Hard. The window disappeared behind a wall of fabric. Just like that. No wave. No acknowledgement. Nothing. The entire encounter lasted only a few seconds. But it left me shaken. This wasn't the middle of the night. This wasn't some misunderstanding and poor lighting. It happened in broad daylight. And ever since, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe grief has simply changed him in ways I don't understand. Maybe the hole had nothing to do with his missing son. Maybe the garbage bag contained something completely harmless. Maybe every suspicious detail can be explained. I want to believe that. I really do. But every time I replay those events, another question appears. Why refuse help so aggressively? Why dig such a large hole? Why continue the work after midnight? Why scan neighboring windows before doing whatever came next? Why fill the hole before sunrise? Why move the SUV? And why watch my house afterward? None of those questions have answers. At least not yet. What makes this situation worse is that I haven't told anyone. My wife has no idea. She still thinks Charles is simply a grieving father trying to live with an unimaginable loss. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm allowing suspicion to turn ordinary events into something sinister. But when I picture that piece of black plastic emerging from the dirt beneath the moonlight, my confidence disappears. Because I know what I saw, and I know how Charles reacted. Now every time I leave my house, I find myself glancing toward his windows. Every time I hear a sound outside after dark, I listen a little longer. The truth is, I don't know what happened in that backyard. I don't know whether a terrible secret was buried there. I don't know whether I witnessed the removal of evidence. And I don't know whether Charles is hiding something or if I'm imagining the worst. What I do know is this. I've never been afraid of my neighbor.